Okay, here we are at the end of the day, and oddly enough, this piece is going to preface everything. I want to introduce you to the art instructor who has facilitated this entire project, set it up. Her name is Maryl Simpson. So pardon me while I turn the camera around, and we're going to hone in on Maryl, and I'm going to ask her a couple of questions for you. Now, this is Maryl.
Hi.
Hi, Ms. Simpson.
Hi.
We've just finished the day. Your students have put their installation projects out. There's been all sorts of things, comments, people have been looking at them. There's two things that I want to know from you. First, what was the project? What did you guys do? How did it come about?
Okay. Well, we did a lot of things. The whole semester we started with techniques and mark making. I think people are mark makers and art detectives, and I was trying to teach the kids to always be thinking, always be awake, always be looking at things, and that every mark that they made was important. So, and that people have been doing that since like the cave paintings in Lascaux. And it isn't much different now than then, only we got Crayola making our crayons rather than drawing with rocks. Still the same. So, with one of our first projects, we looked at ourselves. We did some self-portraits, and we did it with symbols. We talked a lot about symbols. With our self-portraits, we put things that were personal about us into our faces. So, you know, your face might have been, it could have been an iPod with the wires coming up and then being your eyes at the little ear dad.
Okay.
Dads, you know, something like that. Anyway, whatever was important to them, they put in the places of their iconographic features of their face, but they were looking inward. So after we did the looking inward, we started to look outward, and we started looking at social messaging and the latest art movement, which I was saying I believe it's an art movement, and that's street art. But in order to get into street art, we looked at things like Banksy and Space Invader and all sorts of guerrilla artwork. We didn't spend time on graffiti particularly. I didn't want to focus on vandalism. I wanted to look at social messaging.
Social messaging.
Yes.
Good.
And people like Banksy, who I think is fabulous, looks at corporate America and what they're telling us, the people that have money on billboards, because those are entrepreneurs, people that own billboards. Those are entrepreneurs that own corporations, and they spend the money to put information on billboards to convince us of things. They might be right and they might be wrong. My point was they need to be thinking that and knowing that. And not just taking it in like brainwashing, which is what Banksy's talking about, you know, brainwashing, not being brainwashed. So I talked to them about ambiguous spaces. Ambiguous spaces are places where you can put social messages, and ambiguous spaces in your mind are places where you haven't decided what you think, and you could be brainwashed if something comes at you and you haven't taken time to think about what that message means. So we spent a lot of time on that, looking at the work of some street artists, saw the film exit through the gift shop, looked at guerrilla art, and then we did some posters. We decided to do a social piece for the homeless because I know you, and I asked you if you would come in and talk to them because it would feel personal. It was personal to me.
Right.
It's personal to me also because I have a very ill husband who is being cared for, and I'm around people that need some care right now, that they haven't had the great fortune to have good health.
Right.
Health is the first thing. There's that movie Eat, Pray, Love, and I say the first thing is health. It's health, then it's eat, pray, love.
So you had everybody look at themselves, and they started expressing outward, and you chose homelessness for the social media message.
Because it's close to me right now, because I know you, and I thought I could give them some personal insights to make it personal to them.
And this project included soft sculpture along with the posters that you were talking about?
Yes, first we started with we looked at Dorothea Lange and the impoverished of other eras to show them that life, you know, is kind of a roller coaster ride, and it could happen to you. It could happen to anybody, to bring it home. You know, and the woman in the Dorothea Lange photo, that's very, very, very famous. It's a wonderful documentary piece. That woman went on to remarry and have a wonderful life, but at that time it was horrible. Her husband had just died of tuberculosis. She had just sold the tires to their car. She had kids. She didn't know where her next meal was coming from, but she was there, not freaked out, but thinking, what's my next move? And I think that people that are okay, that are homeless, are thinking that way. What's the next move? Because there's someplace they don't want to be. But then this is what I think, because I don't know everything. You know a lot more than me. But I think that other people are ill, you know, they're diseased, they're whatever it is that happened in their life, that they need help. Like my husband is a person that needs help, so I see that. If nobody cared for him, he'd be a homeless person somewhere too.
Right.
So I try to help where I can now because I have this insight that's based on experience. So I wanted to share that with the kids. I wanted to share you with the kids because I think you're a wonderful orator for the cause and for several things. We have a lot of fun together talking about it. I thought this will be a really fun project that will be really useful for teaching them about life because they're seniors, most of my students, and they're going to go out into the world, and they're still kids in so many ways. And I thought instead of doing coloring, let's color something great.
Most excellent.
Oh, and so you want to know about the last final project that I haven't even talked about, which is today's one.
Yes.
The last project was then to take it 3D. We'd done 2D, and to take it 3D and do some soft sculptures and an installation piece of artwork, because I've been telling them artwork's more than just what's down on paper in a museum. It's what is all around you. So I said, you know, even people are art. Fashion is art. Everything's art. So the homeless, they have their own style, and we see them everywhere, yet people don't see them, and they ignore them, and Dorothea Lange's photo brought that forward in a beautiful piece of art, and I thought we could bring this forward in a beautiful sculptural way. And so I didn't think the school would go for it, but they did. I was talking to the head of leadership one day, and he had heard, word got around campus that I was looking at street art, so all of a sudden I think I got kind of groovy, and really I'm not. But the word got around, and there were kids coming in saying, oh, you know, I know Obey, which he does street art here, and he's internationally famous, and I was saying, well, get him into our classroom to talk, and Cachet, somebody else that works here in town. And anyway, the word had gotten around, and another teacher, the head of leadership, came to talk to me about getting some kids to do a piece of street art for the school dance. And I said, oh, that's sure, you know, I'll put some people together. That would be really cool. And I said, and what do you think about my idea to do some sculptural pieces on campus for the homeless? Do you think that the school would go for that? And he goes, oh, I think it's fabulous. I'll help you to get it done. Because I don't know anybody here. I'm actually just subbing right now. Tomorrow's my last day for a 4-month stint that I've been doing. But it was fabulous received. Just like a half an hour ago, one of the assistant principals walked by, and she was the head person to say okay to the project. She was like, I loved your artwork. And I forgot to say it wasn't my artwork. It was the kids' artwork.
Well, that brings me to the next point, because there has been a fabulous response to this today. And there were two things that I overheard, and I want to ask you just a really short question on this. The wording that I heard from the gentleman who walked by was, you've created buzz on campus. Now, not only did you create positive buzz among all the students, but there were two pieces of buzz that I think are absolutely marvelous. Apparently, there's one of the soft sculptures that brought a response from someone.
It looked very realistic. And so one of the students, I guess, saw this piece of artwork and ran to someone and said they wanted to call 911 because the person wasn't responding when they called to it, and they thought that someone was, you know, passed out on the grounds. But it was someone that we had placed laying in a grassy area.
Absolutely excellent. And I hear there was a second one as well, perhaps a little more humorous turn on this one. Something about a dumpster. Can you elaborate on that one for me?
Yeah, there was this funny piece. Well, they're going to see it because they're going to see the video. But
we're going to show you on video, so don't worry about that. But just tell me a little bit about what you know.
Well, they thought that was real too, and they were really disturbed to see a kid. They thought it was one of the students going into the dumpster getting things, and that actually was the head of leadership. He was telling me that he really liked it because he thought it was really was going to go. Take the student aside and give them a talking to because they should have been in class and not in the dumpster getting things.
So the project was well received by all, and I really want to thank you because your students made all of this. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I'm going to go ahead and end this now, and we're going to start
Thank you.
with this piece. Thanks again. Again, this is Maryl Simpson, and I'm Lost Awareness, signing off.